Welcome, John. Thanks so much for joining me. I usually start off with a little self-introduction, so if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about your background and your business and what you do.
Sure, Andrea, it is a privilege, a pleasure, an honor to be with you and your listeners, and of course, your many guests that are watching us here today or tonight. So I'm John C. Morley. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an engineer. And just to give you the quick nutshell of that, I've always had a passion for improving. And when I graduated college, or just before I graduated college, I was supposed to give out a check for $10,000 and $10,000. And being the director on finance for Student Association, I was the guy you'd come to when you wanted your keg party. And I usually said no, because if I gave you $3,000, you came back for another $3,000 for more beer. I'm like, we need to do something like justified with that money. I can't just keep giving you money for only beer. I mean, it's nice, but you got to do some work. So I said to the one person, I said, come back with something that helps the community. So before I said that, I said, what do you want the other 3,000 for? He says, well, we're trying to help the community. So, that's great. Something I would have said. Now, how are you going to help the community? Oh, boss, I don't know. I just said it. My friend said you would like to hear that. So I just said I'd say it and you'd probably help me. No. So I was asked one weekend to go present 2 checks, $10,000 and $10,000 to the speaker. It was like an entertainer. I said, it's a lot of money. How long is he with us? 90 minutes. Who is this guy? Oh, don't worry. He's approved. He's great. He goes to all colleges. He's amazing. All right. So I did some research on him and I found that he embarrasses students and administration and faculty. I said, oh, okay. So I go to see him when he comes in. I said, doctor, whatever it is. I said, I'm John C. Morley. You probably don't know me. But anyway, I'm the guy who normally signs the check. This check already got signed by administration, but I want to be very clear with you. So I did some homework and I found out what you do. You bring people on stage with a lemon, you embarrass people like myself, the team. So I'm very clear with you. If you embarrass me or anybody in this whole front row area, this check that I'm going to give you is going to bounce so high out of this universe, you're never going to see what happened. And the second check, don't stick around for because you're never going to get it. And if money doesn't bother you, because I know you probably make so much of it, I'm friends with all the fraternities, all the connections with Yale, Harvard, Boston, all these things. So I know where you're going next. And don't be surprised if 1 week before every appearance, they call to cancel. I said, am I clear? Crystal, great. Well, I can't wait to see your show. I sit in my chair at the end of the show. He comes up to me, embarrasses the people that are in the back. Comes up to me. He said, Mr. Morley, how was the show? I said, this show was outstanding. Here's your second check. And I'm actually going to recommend to our administration that we put more money in the budget so we can bring you in a second time. He's like, why, thank you. Well, thank you. I said, it was a privilege working with you. And that got me turned into thing that, I learned language from engineering because engineering is just a language, really. How we do things, how we code, how we understand things, how we represent things in our world, the physical world, the 3D world, and the 2D world. And I said, I got to learn the language of the mind. I got to learn what makes our mind do everything because our mind runs 90% of what we do, 95% of what we do, the autonomous. I said, I got to study that. When I graduated, I took the Silva method 7 times. Then I went to clinical hypnosis. Then I went to neurolinguistic programming and I just kept absorbing it. Now I'm going back and taking another course because I still feel there's a language I haven't learned yet. And it's the heart. So I signed up for an 18-week course on how to get the brain and the heart into a synergy. Because the brain actually has more connections to our brain. Our heart has more connection to our brain than our brain does to our heart. And so that got me onto the whole thing of motivational. I love creating content. And I live for 2 reasons, to become a better version of myself and help others become better versions of themselves. I have a couple podcasts. The cast I have right now is called Inspirations for Your Life. It's on every day. We're just about to hit, probably by the time this airs, we'll be at 50,000. We're at 49,000 something. And our goal is to hit 100,000 by the end of January. And to me, it's about creating content that people will choose to want to apply to their lives. People say, well, you were a hypnotist, you can make me do it. I said, no. I said, you have to want to do it, and then we'll get you to do it. So I like people to understand that the decisions will come from you. And that was how I manifested my first luxury car. I went into the dealer, didn't have any money. And and I liked the nav because that was what I picked. And this other guy who just graduated a few years after me, he says, so you want to test drive? I said, yeah, but I want to use the nav. He said, we don't let you test drive the nav. Oh, yeah. So when do you want to do the deal? I said, I don't know. I said, I'm kind of looking. Oh, so you're not serious? I said, today I'm not, but I'm researching. And he kind of blew me off. So I went over to the district manager and I said to him, could I drive that car over there and could I get the nav activated? He said, absolutely. He said, who's your salesperson? I said, that guy over here in the corner, but he told me you don't activate nav. He said, sure we do. We have to put a request in. It takes an hour, but yeah, we can do it. I said, that'd be great. He said, fantastic. I'm not ready to buy today. He said, that's okay. Just test drive it. Get comfortable with it. Know the car. I said, that's awesome. So I test drive the car. I come back. As I test drove the car, I saw the car. I heard the car. I felt the car. And every day when I went home, first I took the picture, I put it on my iPhone, I put it on my computer. I saw that car. And I closed my eyes every night after dinner, and I would sit in my proverbial driving chair. I'd press the smart button, I'd start my car, and I would take a little trip. Each day I'd take a 5-minute trip. Sometimes I'd take a 15-minute trip. Sometimes I'd go over bridges. Sometimes I'd go to different states. And within 6 months, that car was sitting in my driveway.
There's something to be said about manifesting. I I used to think that it was a bit woo-woo, but then you start doing the math, if you will, and the people that have what they want all claim to have manifested it, right? And the people that don't have what
Yes,
they want
yes.
and are complaining about not having it are the ones that aren't manifesting. And hey, maybe it's just one of those quirks where it's not necessarily like the actual tool that they use, but there has to be something
Well,
said about the coincidence, right?
we have to understand one thing without getting too deep would be quantum physics. So,
Okay.
I don't want to get too deep, but basically what I want to tell you is everything in this world is energy. So I have this little thing in my pocket. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a rock. I call it a magic rock. It's my magic gratitude rock. People are like, what are you smoking? I'm like, I don't smoke anything. And so what I do every morning is I take this rock off the dresser and I hold it for a few minutes. It's a round rock. It's green. I like the green color. It's one of my favorite colors. And I feel it. It's smooth, so I can put it in my pocket so it won't damage any clothing. And I just hold it. And I take a moment to be grateful for everything I have. And I don't just think about it. I feel it in my heart. And I let all those feelings go through. Now, you might say, John, I don't know what to be thankful for. Okay. Well, I have something called John's alphabet of gratitude. You start with A. Everybody knows the alphabet, I hope by now. And the letter A, we have air. I'm so happy and grateful that there's so much air that I can breathe. I'm so happy and grateful that there's abundance of everything, from money, from health, from people, from ideas, from gifts, from concepts, from buildings, from ants, and I just keep going on and on. So the reason that people don't get abundance is because they focus on lack. Oh my gosh, John, you don't know what I'm going through. No, I don't. I can't pay this. I can't pay that. I said, okay. I get what you're going through. Okay. I've had challenges too. But what I've learned is the more I focused on that, the more I got more of what I didn't want. So I focus now on what I do want, which is abundance. So I'm grateful for what I have. Maybe it's not where you want to live today. Maybe it's not the clothes you want. I don't care. Be grateful for what you have on your back. Be grateful for the car you're driving. Be grateful for the home you're in right now. Be grateful for everything. Be grateful for the weight you have. I was 250 pounds several years ago. I fired 7 trainers. I say this not to brag, but I say this because when you believe, that's my little slogan is believemeachieve.com. When you believe that every core and fiber of your being, I'm talking about really believing, not just pseudo, you promise it to yourself. I don't set goals anymore. I stopped setting goals 10 years ago. Goals are things that might happen and they may not happen. I'm too busy to set goals. I make promises and make sure they happen. So our world is all about energy. And if you could start with being grateful, more things in your life will show up that you can be grateful for.
And as far as creating that mindset of, I'm going to have this, and like you said, with every fiber of your being believing it, like there'll be I guess, an internal dialogue fighting back to that, right? I mean, for me, it definitely was a sense of, or at least the voice in my head was like, you're not humble. You like, why are you believing this? So, like you should be more humble and accept the possibility that it could not happen, right? And that was my inner dialogue when when I was first starting, right? And it took a while to realize, no, it's okay to just fully believe it with your entire, with every fiber in your being, right? And we all just tell stories in our head, so
Stories are
it's the
very
same.
powerful, but people say to me things like, I have $1 million. So I get it when you say, you're like, wait a minute, you don't have it. So you're kind of like, wait a minute, you're like, I don't know how I can do this. So what I tell people to do is, I am so happy and grateful millions of dollars are on the way.
Mm,
So you put it out in the future, but you're grateful for it coming. You're grateful for things that are coming, whether it's a relationship. I'm so happy and grateful I found the person in my life. I'm so happy and grateful that more clients are continuing to come from my door. So take what you have now, be grateful for it, and amplify.
mm. Amplify it every day, amplify it how?
Amplify it every day. So I'll give you an example of something I did, and it works, and I always do different things. So you want to have more abundance. We always do. So keep being grateful for what you have. I just took a little exercise that I did and did a gratitude exercise, which I've been doing for quite a while. And then what I do is I spend time in that gratitude state. And then as I picture those things that are already in my life, they're already here. Okay. One of the things I did on the process of building a new home, I started years ago actually picking out the things for that home. Even though I couldn't afford them yet, I started picking them out so I could get in the process. You see, it's not the destination that matters. It's the journey. People say, well, gee, the house is great, but let's have fun building the house. Let's have fun engineering the house. No pun intended. Let's have that fun. Let's get involved with it. But what I really tell people is I don't work for a living. I get paid to play like I was a kid. I creatively play every single day. And if something doesn't work, well, I guess we'll just have to figure another way to make it work. And when I did this activity, just being grateful for things, more things showed up. I'm like, where'd they come from? I don't care. And I'm so happy and grateful that they did. And I know more is showing up. And it's just a very strange thing because you don't know where it's coming from. You don't have to know where it's coming from, but it just comes to you. We are like a magnet. It's very similar to the poles that we have on neodymium magnets. And I was mentioning to you before when we had the pre-chat. Neodymium magnets are good and bad. So the good part about them is they can hold more than your refrigerator magnets. They're not that expensive. Bad thing about neodymium magnets is that if you let them smack, they break. They're very brittle.
Mm.
As soon as that brittleness comes off, the properties of the magnet weans away. And so the other thing you got to be very careful, and I learned this, in fact, my finger is just healing up. You can kind of see that tiny scar from 3 months ago. That happened when I'm like, oh yeah, neodymium magnets. Okay, I can handle neodymium. That's that. I play with magnets. Whoa, gee, I'm like in the middle. I'm like playing, like, oh, I'm like, oh, like, okay, we got to stop that. Okay. I believe you're strong now. Now I need to be on the defense. You're going over here. You're going over here. You're going over here. No one touched. No one move anything. And I have things scattered like within like 10 feet because they're so darn powerful. And I remember handing them out in a science class, in a STEM class I was teaching. And I gave them the small little baby magnets I got on Amazon, which was like $7 or $8, but they were nothing. And you could pull apart, and they were not hard. I gave these people, I said, try to pull this apart. I said, I don't want to ruin it. I was like, they couldn't do it. But what I was trying to tell you about the losing weight thing, which is really cool, I went to 7 trainers and I fired 7 trainers. They all told me I'm never going to lose weight. And I said, this is the same thing I'm hearing about the marketing, about the advertising. You're never going to be successful. I'm noticing a pattern here. I need to start changing my language. And I need to start stop hanging around people that are telling me I can't do something. And I have a strong philosophy. So when I was going to lose weight, I said, I got to get into something I could do every day. I'm not going to go to the gym every day. That's not me. Well, I'm going to work on building my core. So every day, I still do it. I spend 3 minutes building my core by just holding planks. Then I do 30 toe touches, and that's just a great feeling. Then I do 30 heel ups. It's not a lot. And I log everything I eat, and I enjoy the process of engineering that I'm burning my calories. So I don't have the device with me now. I have a Lumen device about this big, and it uses engineering. So when you basically hold it, people think I'm vaping, but I'm not. In fact, I've had 3 or 4 cops stop me. He says, I'm so surprised some of your caliber would actually vape around the kids. I said, but I'm not. He said, well, we caught you. We saw you on camera. You're right. You did caught me with this. See, you got it with you again. You want me to show you what this does? Don't vape in here. I said, no, just hang on. Take the lid off. I press the thing on my phone and I show them a screen. 10 seconds. And I said, what the heck is that? Now it's down. They're like, what the heck are you doing? I'm lumining. You're what? I'm taking my my CO2 and the oxygen coming out, the CO2, and I'm measuring it for my level. You're what? Well, so there's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. A 1 means I'm basically burning 90% fat and 10% carbs. If I'm all the way up at a 5, well, I might only be burning like 90% carbs and no fat. We want to burn fat, but we want to alternate between burning carbs and burning fat. In the morning you wake up, you want to be around a 1 or 2. After lunch, you might go up a little more, which is fine, but you want to keep going back and forth. And you want to have that natural flow.
So it's just a ketone breath analyzer?
Yes.
Okay.
It basically analyzes, they call it your O2. The same kind. It analyzes the amount of basically that's in the O2, and it's able to tell you, and then it charts it, and it uses AI to give you the read. That's how it does the reading. So the neat thing about this is they now charge they charge you, when I bought it was $1,000. I was grandfathered in. Now they have a package for $199 for 3 months. They have one, I think, for $399 for 6 months, and I think $699 for more. If then after that happens, they charge you $35 a month. Well, when I bought it, I paid this price, and now I never pay a fee again for the monthly.
And
because
what
I was
does
one of the early adopters.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you got it when it was first initially coming out as a product.
And I bought it years ago, and I just decided to go back on this thing about losing weight. But it's like, I don't want to do a diet. I don't want to do a diet. So I learned what things cost. I learned that, you have to know the size of your palm is what you eat. Of course, you're going to go walk like Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But even with Thanksgiving, I don't eat 5 pieces of cake. I take 1 tiny piece of pumpkin, 1 tiny piece of pecan, 1 tiny piece of something else, apple. And my 3 slices equal 1 slice.
So you get to do everything. Yeah, it's funny. I actually have like a ketone blood meter that I use, but I never use it because you have to prick yourself every time. And so when I first bought it, I would that's why I'm gonna check it out. Maybe I'll buy that and it'll help me track I like data, so like any good.
The data is amazing. And just to give an example, let me go to I don't think I can show it to you online. I could try. So this is my app right here. It's loading up. And basically, if I click on today, this is my today as I'll click on it. So my week was all over the map, but my today wasn't too bad. So if you look at my numbers, okay. So my Monday was a 2, my Tuesday was a 3, Wednesday I didn't measure, and Thursday was a 4, and Friday I didn't measure. Sometimes I don't measure, it just happens. So I was Friday, so that happens, and so I'll put that back in. So the whole thing is just to kind of know where you are, and it's a great barometer for you. And so my flex score right now is at 10.5, not the highest, but still my flex score is up from last week. My flex score.
Is that just what is the flex score on
my
the app?
Flex score is the ability of how well my body can shift from burning and burning carbs.
Yeah, I've heard that described, sort of like how keto adapted you are, how quickly you can jump into ketosis.
So I look at that level to decide, well, should I have another piece of cake? Can I have something else? Gee, I'm at a 3. I don't think I can. And a 4, I'll look at that and look, oh my gosh, I'm at 4. I got to get that lower. So I use that as my guide.
Nice. How long have you been doing this?
Lumen I've been doing for a couple of years now. I started
Hmm,
Lumen just before COVID.
I see. Okay, yeah. At that point, I guess the idea of ketosis had sort of been out already. I think.
I
It,
think the big thing though was this device though. And this
you
started
may just being able to
in
track
another
it.
king. Yeah, exactly. And it's not adapted in the US yet. It's not like federally approved or anything. It's not met any kind of approval.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is I tried and it worked. In fact, they're still trying to get a testimony on me. I'm like, but I do like it. And the thing is but you've got to do it consistently. People say, "Oh, John, that's a lot of work." No, it's fun. Oh, I could do that all the time. You log this, you log that. I said, yeah, I do. Oh, that's too much work for me. And so you got to enjoy the process, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're building a building, whether you're writing software, whether I'm designing a 3D model in Blender and then getting it printed out and dealing with all the challenges, like the fact that when you make a train, we're making trains for the kids next year. And you have to remember that you have to go all the way to the base. Otherwise, you can't design then in midair. You just can't. So you have to go to the bottom, even if it doesn't make the design look better. Otherwise, it's just going to lose its stability.
It's got to be attached to the ground, basically. Is
Yeah,
what you're
it's got to
saying.
be attached to the grid. It's got to be attached to that base. And you could
Hmm.
change the type of structural base you use. I haven't played with that too much, but it's interesting to know. Like I did one today that was a one I had approved my prototype on, and I made 6 trains in about 3 hours and 40 minutes.
So, can you go into that? Is that part of your business? Can you explain that a little bit
So
more?
sure. So Orbital Media, one of the companies I own, is my full print production graphic media design company. So again, JMOR became Orbital's first client because nobody could print, nobody could mail, nobody could do anything. So I started that for myself. I feel like, well, gee, I need that kind of help, websites, etc. So the 3D printing. So we're always trying to add things, right, to make things better. But my big philosophy, Andrew, is to do everything in house. Like we want to sell laser pens next year, but we don't have a laser pen engraver. That's on
Hmm.
our to-do list to get next year. We just got a 3D printer about 6, 7 months ago. I said, we got to start playing with that. And now we got to start letting people know that we design 3D models. I have 2 people that work for me that did 3D modeling all these years. Nobody ever told me they
Hmm.
did 3D modeling. And I started learning it. So I was like, wow, you know 3D? He's like, yeah, I've done it since college. I'm like, why did you tell me that? I said, oh, I didn't know you wanted. I said, well, we got all this new equipment. Oh, I just never bothered to tell you. I said, yeah, I'm doing 3D models for years. Oh, okay. And so it's in fact we have another to-do list. We want to get a dual extruder next year where we can extrude
Hmm.
2 colors at one time. But it's neat because you take something on the screen, and I think it's the greatest thing when I take one model that works and I could just clone it and move it and just put the weight. And there's a structure so that if you put them too far, it takes a lot longer to build them. If you put them close enough, cuts the time.
Hmm.
But there's a lot in there. Like, for example, when you start out, if you never worked with a machine like this before, you got to know how to load the filament. Well, when we got it and we loaded it, we thought, oh, gee, this was easy. I said, that came out awfully quick. I guess it's a fast machine. Then I'm noticing the filament's really not out. That was just some prep for the factory. So I'm like wondering what happened to the rest of this thing. And I see it's not even a third of the way through the tube. But one thing is it does not use a lot of PLA filament. When you build, I'm building things that are like, maybe 2x3, 3x3. We built something that was this big that used a lot of filament.
Hmm.
But it takes a lot of time too, and they're also dangerous. You cannot leave them unattended. I can't tell how many times I left the auto like, oh, did I leave that machine running? Yeah, I did. I better go back and turn it off. Even though it has a standby, it really isn't safe to leave them running. And the best is we have a camera that's inside and a light. So I turn that on and I make a video of it. Hey, so this is our journey making our train. Let's go show you how this train got made. And we do a time lapse on it. And so the business is about stories.
It's funny how
And
you can find content absolutely anywhere. Just start recording everything you do, and you can just start finding content, right?
yes, yes. So I got very passionate to that. In fact, the thing about the creatively play like you were a kid, I didn't know that 4 years ago. Maybe my inside knew it, but I didn't know it. I discovered it, Andres, when I did one of my videos. It's one of my popular videos. They're all popular, but I took a thing of bubble solution outside, And many years ago, we weren't doing a theme like the word. We were doing a letter like Sesame Street does. Like,
Hmm.
and today's motivational clip is brought to you by the letter I. And my advice today is imagination. Use your imagination. Get
Hmm.
creative. So I talked about, when you're a kid, you open up the jar, not the dollar one, but the really good mixture, not the ones you make yourself, but the really good bubble mixture that you pay $3 or $4 for. Take that wand and you can actually blow like this, or you can blow with enthusiasm. You can
Hmm.
take the wand and do that and nothing happens. You take the wand and do this. So I was like, play when you were a kid. You got everything you wanted when you were a kid. You were very curious and you were very engineering in a way. For example, you asked one parent, you knew who to go to. When you wanted something, you kind of feeled it out and said, who's in a better mood? Who should I ask? Mom, dad, And you kind of knew.
Hmm.
And then you asked and you got. As you became a teenager, same thing happened. You wanted the car. So you had to come up with creative ways to show you're responsible so that they would give you more trust. I feel that when people get older, they hang up their creativity jacket.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem that I hear from a lot of engineers, right? You go into engineering because you love, I mean, I'm a civil structural engineer, right? Like I used to play with Tonka trucks as a kid, type of thing.
I love to do
And-
that. It was fun.
right?
I
And
had the
then
one where we'd go around and have the little black beans would go around, come back, hill. I used to love that.
right, or what were those other ones, like the logs that you would stack, right? So
Yes.
my point is that you go into engineering school thinking you're going to build all these amazing things, and then you go sort of start your first job and you realize, hey, like engineering isn't exactly all you were told it might be, right? I mean, but I guess what I encourage people is, hey, like you can go into your creative side and continue to do that. I have a friend that's starting a 3D printing company. I have another buddy that's starting sort of what do you call this? Like a woodworking. He's making
hmm hmm
things for different people. So, like you can always use your engineering. You can always use whatever background. You just need to open your eyes to what you want to do, right? And then just look for a creative
Exactly. You
outlet.
have to realize that this is why I love being an entrepreneur, not a business owner, but an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur,
Hmm.
because you could do whatever you want. I had an idea, I don't know, several months ago. I'm like, we could get mugs. I bet we could print on them. And we can. So anything you can think of, you can do. There is some trial and error. So the first time we built our first train, I'm like, oh, this didn't work so well. So you have to kind of realize that if you're going to be an engineer or you're going to be an entrepreneur or a serial entrepreneur, you got to have that quality that says you're not going to give up. You're going to keeping on. And you're going to look at the challenges you face as a lesson to not to go that way. So I use an example. I'm an Eagle Scout. And we were on this journey around a tree or this pathway. And we were on this journey for 3-4 hours. And finally, I said to somebody, I was just one of the lowly scouts. I wasn't a leader or anything like that, or a patrol leader or anything. And I said to him, I said, guys, I think we hit this tree. Be quiet. Well, hang on a second. So I get my totem chip knife and I go over to the tree and I just carve something in the tree. Come back around. I said, Pat? Yeah. "Oh, remember I told you to be quiet? I know. But what if I could prove to you that we were here? You can't. But go ahead. You know you can't. See that tree over there? Yeah. We've gone around that tree now, I don't know, hundreds of times. No, we haven't. Come here. You see that little mark over there? Yeah. See next to the mark, it has my initials next to it? Yeah. Do you see the date on the top? Yeah. That's today's date, isn't it? Yeah. We've been going around circles. So you keep telling us to go this way. We need to go this way. All right, guys, let's go this way. And if we come back this way, we're out in 3 minutes. But the ego took over and they didn't want to learn. That ego gets in the way so many times. I see it a lot in the financial industry, where they know everything, especially if you ask them something about Excel. Oh, I'm an expert at Excel. You work with pivot tables? Oh, what? Pivot tables. Yeah. I have interns do that for me. Okay, but you know what they are? Yeah, we use that to crunch the numbers. Okay, as long as you know. And they just have this very condescending attitude. So whenever I meet somebody and
Engineering
I tell them,
professors are like that.
you're right, yes, and I meet, and I think that's where it comes from. And I meet somebody and they're like, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an engineer. They're like, no, you're not. So what do you mean? Well, you're too nice to be an engineer. Well, so there are some of us that are actually nice. So there are a lot that aren't nice, but there are some that actually care about humanity and actually are outward people.
Mm.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I think the outward people part is important. I mean, one thing going through engineering school that once I came into the real world that I realized is writing and just communication. And there's at the end of the day, you can be a brilliant engineer and um, not be able to sell your service, right? Sell your. At the end of the day, everything is people and everything is sales to a certain degree. So.
It is. I tell people this, though. Don't sell anything. Solve problems, learn from people. And also what you have to make sure of is that you take people's temperature. People get very confused by this. And what I mean by that is that we have to know where the person is in the conversation, whether it's a friend, platonic, non-platonic. We have to know where we stand so we don't go too far down a rabbit hole and then we can't get back up. And I think a lot of people just presume they're on the right track, but they're not. And so when you talk to them saying, hey, so you're in the middle of something, you just did a presentation. When somebody says to me, like they're having a challenge, whatever it is. And I said, so is that something you're looking to solve? Well, what do you mean? Well, I see it as a challenge. Is it something you want to address today, tomorrow, next week, or never? He's like, I don't know. I said, well, then we shouldn't waste any more time if you don't know that. And they get very confused. They're like, just give me a proposal. Well, there's no point in giving you a proposal because I don't even know if you want to fix what's wrong. It might not be wrong to you. And they look at me. And so when they tell me they want to fix something, I'm like, well, as I say, we don't have to fix it. We can just leave it broken. I mean, to everyone else, it's broken, but to you, it might be fixed. So we don't need to fix something that's already fixed, right? And you're like, so like all over the place. Like, so
That
what I
that
do is I say to the person after I made the presentation and they decide to move forward, I say to them, so Steve, you've agreed with me that, you want to make your company better. And you and I know that you want to improve your company's profits. And that's just the name at the end of the game. And you also know that you want to be able to take your company into a new marketplace, but that'll only be possible if you're able to solve the challenge in the current market you're already in. Right? And that's why I want to ask you, how far apart are we right now? Well, I'm over here, you're over here. How far apart are we from, let's say, moving forward to get this project started? Well, we want to get going. Great. So did you want us to start on Monday or should we wait till next Friday? And so whenever you get somebody to make a decision, but I always let the customer, client, dictate where they want to go. If they take me way down a rabbit hole, I'm like, I'm curious. What's the reason for asking me that question? Is it because you need more knowledge about the topic? Or is it because you're just shopping our product and service? Either is fine. I was just curious for my own knowledge. And they start to like spin like, what the heck's he doing? So I think it's just a matter of having these conversations, taking people's temperature, offering respect, and also knowing that you're not the most important person in the conversation. I never am. It's always the other person that's more important than me.
Hmm.
Dale Carnegie said it best. We have to learn to know people's names and say them correctly. It's the most beautiful thing people like to hear is the sound of their name. If you don't know how to say it, ask them how to say their name. And then strive to become genuinely interested in the other person. For when you do, that person will be indebted to you. It goes back to something Stephen Covey said many years ago. We all have something called an emotional bank account. Now, you don't want to overdraft a regular bank account. We don't want to overdraft an EBT bank account. If I do something nice for you, well, that puts a deposit into my bank account and takes a deposit out of yours, a withdrawal out of yours. If you don't do anything back nice for me, eventually we're going to have a very high negative balance in your account. And eventually, probably not going to want to hang around with you anymore.
It's sort of like the idea of always give a give before you ask for a take type of
I I
idea.
I like that. I like to give first, or I like to say, how can I be of service to you? How can I help you? But then you get people, you have give, and that's okay. And then they take. Then
Mhm.
once I know they've taken, I just don't have time to go back to them anymore. But I'm always nice to people.
Mhm.
It's just, you heard the expression, and this is a really good one. So, let's say whether it's computer, technology, engineering, whatever, and let's say somebody's asking me for help. Great. I'm always helping them out as a friend. Now, I'm moving next week, and I need some help moving my stuff. And my friend says, "Oh, John, Saturday's going to be tough. I'll get back to you." So Friday comes, and he never gets back to you. I never ask him again either. But then he has a problem with his computer Friday night. "John, I got this stupid blue screen. Can you come over here and work your magic?" Tonight? Yeah. Just like come over here and just like, punch a few keys and get me back up because I got to finish up some bills. That could be arranged. What do you mean? Like, let's stop wasting time. Just go over here and do it. Well, I'm actually moving tomorrow. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Maybe I could do it next week then. Well, next week I'm going to be busy. Well, whenever you're free. Well, if you remember, I actually asked you to help me and you told me you were busy. So I'm probably going to be busy for a long time to be able to help you. But if you might be able to help me move for a few hours, I think I might just be able to just squeeze you in for an hour. And then they change and they realize that they need to stop being selfish.
But I
I've
think
had,
most people would probably be in your situation and be like thinking they were selfish, right? Like they wouldn't see it that way.
exactly. So that's why I had a gentleman that I've known for a very long time. He's probably in his 80s. And his family, unfortunately, they call on me to do things. No problem. So the balance was going up there. And finally I sent a letter. And the letter said, "I want to thank you, yada yada. I just want to let you know that we've done this and this and this, all as a courtesy. No money was ever expected. But I would appreciate if you want to settle your daughter's bills, or if you want to get them to pay it before our year ends. I'd be so grateful for you." And the next week, I get a check, and then the person doesn't want to talk to me anymore. You see, when you call people on the carpet, you might lose some friends. But those were never your friends to begin with. Never. They were there to use you. Same thing in business, Andre. I had a client. I think in 32 years, we've lost 3 or 4 clients, a couple I fired myself. We had a very large, I think it was a tow yard, and uh, explained to them how we worked, and they were very large, and they were very demanding. So usually we do a site survey to make sure everything is correct. They had no time for the site survey. I said, just don't worry about it. Just, okay, fine. I said, we understand if we find something, like, we're not going to be responsible for it. So anything that's wrong, like, that's why we do a site survey. Okay, yeah, it's fine. So within a week or so, this guy's calling me and screaming at me, telling me that their printers don't work. I'm telling them, well, we didn't do anything with your printers. Well, you worked on our network. Yeah, but we never touched your printers. What was your wiring? Actually, we didn't do your wiring either, because our jacks are all labeled and they're all
Mhm.
sealed with our little stuff. And these are not our jacks. These are made in China. Ours are made in the US. So can you fix it or not? I'll fix it for you as a courtesy, sure. But I don't want you to think I'm going to go around and fix every other jack for you for free. Okay, whatever. Just do it. So we do it. About a week goes by, and the dispatcher calls me up, a little nasty. And he's like, you got to get over here and blah, 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 and fix the printer because it's not working again. We can't take this nonsense. Da, 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 da. And then he curses him. And I said to him, excuse me, sir. I said, I know you're new to working with us, so maybe you don't understand our terms and conditions, but we have a very strict policy here. No discrimination for race, religion, sexual orientation, color, creed, or profanity. Now, what you did today was use a profanity word, and I want you to know this is a warning. The second warning, you will actually get a letter, and the final warning, you will get a letter terminating your service. Okay. A couple days go by, calls me up, and cursing on the voicemail. They better blah, 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 blah. Call them up. I help them very, very nicely with their issue. Thank you so much. I said, yeah, well, have a great day. And, we have an issue. What, we owe you money? No, it's not about money. It's about respect. Huh? Well, you called us. Was that you that called us? Yeah. You happen to have uttered a curse word on our voicemail, and that's something we don't tolerate. So I have to tell you, you're at strike 2. So let me also remind you that not only is that strike 2, also tell the lady who runs your company that if she does it, not just you, anybody, it'll be strike 3 and we'll terminate you. We're on the phone helping him again, and he's been very nice, doesn't want to say anything bad. When she comes to us, why are you people, da, 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 and she heard her screaming in the background, a curse word, at us. And I said, could you put us on speaker for a moment? Because she was right there. I said, hi, ma'am. I said, we have a way of running our business. I said, I don't know how you run yours, and it's not my job to tell you how to run it. But we have a very strict policy. No discrimination, race, religion, sexual orientation, color, creed, or profanity. You have just reached strike 3. We'll be sending you a letter in the mail, and your services are now terminated. She curses at me some more. I said, I'm going to disconnect the call me. Okay? Have a wonderful day. They got the letter, and we terminated their services. So I think respect and integrity, Andrea, are very, very important. When I have people that want me to write a press release, and they say to me, John, this was a great release, but could you change 3 words? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. We could change it. You see where it says that we are knowledgeable in this field? I said, yeah. Change that to say we are the best in our field. Excuse me? Yeah, just change knowledgeable to best in our field. Just change those couple words. Just really simple. I look at him and he's like, can you do that? No. Well, just give me the file. I'll change it. Well, no. We can't do that. Oh, you're going to sock us for more money. That's what you're about, aren't you? No. So what do you want? Another 5? Another 500? No. Another 1,000? No. No, sir. Another 2,000? No. Another 3,000? No. All right. Another 5,000? All right. What? 10,000? No, sir. I don't want any amount of money from you. We're about integrity. And I will not write something here just because you're telling me when there's no proof to back it up. I said, perhaps you want to go search on the internet for somebody, maybe a college kid that's just looking to make some money, that doesn't really care. But I'm a member of the media, and I take what I write and what I say and what I create very, very seriously. And they just kind of went silent.
It's definitely a virtue that you see less of today. And I think to be able to have that, you would, I mean, going back to abundance, right? Like you wouldn't
Yes.
be able to say, "Hey, I'm not," when you terminated their contract, if you were not in an abundance mindset, you wouldn't have been able to terminate because you would have been worried that you wouldn't have enough work, right? Enough
When our creator
clients.
closes a window, which he does, or a door, he always opens another window or door somewhere. And you're probably going to say to me, John, how do you know this is true? Well, I'm going to prove it to you right now. For those of you, there's some skeptics there, I know. First, I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you, Andre, what color car do you drive?
I drive a gray car.
Okay, I drive a white car. If I asked you right now, are there a lot of gray cars on the road?
Sure, yeah, plenty.
Plenty, right? I'll tell you that there's probably more white cars on the road. You're like, no, they're not. There's more gray cars. And if I asked a friend of yours that drove a blue car, now you're both wrong. There's more blue cars on the road. Well, you're both wrong because I drive a truck and there's more trucks that are green on the road. Who's right? So our world is about perceptions. We create our reality from our perceptions. Our RAS, or reticular activating system, back in our brain, we're born with, was not designed to make us successful. It was designed to keep us safe. But what it does is it focuses on what you give it attention to. That's what it looks for. That's why when you get a brand new car, you never had a car that was green or gray or blue. Like, wow, I never noticed how many blue cars or how many red cars are on the road. You focus on it. And so the thing about, and that just proved the point. So the thing about abundance, when you're focusing on abundance, the abundance is always there. It's just you were missing it. Right? When you go to a store, maybe you like candy. I like dark chocolate. And I go for the dark chocolate. But like, that's all I see is dark chocolate. But there's other candy there, but I just don't pay attention to it. And other people are like, I never see dark chocolate. I hate dark chocolate. What do you go? Well, I go for the milk chocolate. Okay. So what we focus on is what happens. And so this is a result of our thoughts. Our thoughts are energy. Everything that ever was, everything that will be is all energy. And so what that means, in short, is that wherever our thoughts, okay, are going, that's where the energy is going to flow. You try it right now. Think of abundance for 10 or 15 seconds, even 30 seconds. Think of all this abundance, all this money coming to you. And do this maybe, I don't know, do it every couple hours. I've told some of my clients to set an alarm every 2 hours. And when an alarm goes off, take 15 seconds and just feel how abundant you are. See, when the feeling reaches our body, we already have the abundance. So whether it shows up or not doesn't matter because we already are abundant. It's the feeling. Feel it first, then you'll manifest it second. People that just look at things like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. Or they create these vision boards, which are great, but they don't put the feeling into them. You know what I'm saying?
But when you say you have to feel abundance,
Yes.
because there's like you were saying there, yeah, that's the question. How do you do that? Because there's been, say, like to follow along with your car example, a couple years ago, I was thinking, oh, I really want a Tacoma. So then I'd start seeing Tacomas everywhere, and I still don't got my Tacoma, and honestly, I don't really want a car because I'm in Colombia right now, so I don't I don't need one.
Okay.
But
So there's a couple things. So one is you thought it,
mhm.
but you have to take steps towards your goal every day. So I'll give you something a little bit easier. Let's say you were going to open a restaurant. What's actually right? So let's say you're going to open a restaurant in Colombia. And let's say, oh my gosh, Chuck, I don't know the first thing about the restaurant business. So you're fretting. You're getting so nervous because you don't have the restaurant yet. Told you you're opening a restaurant, but you don't have the restaurant yet. You got to open it. So instead of opening the restaurant, you're not opening a restaurant right now. You're going to open one a year. You're just researching to learn how to open a restaurant, what it's going to be like. Talk to the restaurant owners. Have fun with the process. And when you do that, you get rid of the stress. That's how it works. Now with the car, you got to make the car part of your vision in the morning and also at night. Got to make it part of your vision. And you got to feel yourself driving the car. You've already driven the car, I'm sure, or whenever you want to drive it. Then come home, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and picture yourself in the car.
So when you're picturing or when you're feeling the abundance, you can also picture yourself in the
Yes, so
car.
picturing is one of our senses. We
Mm.
have auditory, we have visual, we have kinesthetic. Auditory, what we hear. So I heard the beautiful sound of the car. Visual, I saw the picture. Kinesthetic, I felt it. I also used my smell, factory, to smell the nice fresh leather in the car. So the more senses you involve, the more your body says, hey, this is going to happen. I'll give you another example. If any of you follow basketball, many years ago, there was a study done. And these people in college, there were 3 sets of people. One that basically played basketball every single day. Fantastic, right? Second group didn't play basketball at all. It just didn't play, didn't practice. The third group didn't play basketball in the gym. They sat in the silent study room and they played basketball in their mind. The one that didn't do anything obviously didn't get better basketball. But the one in the gym and the one in the silent study did very well, because when you're thinking about it, your body is still, the neurons and dendrites are still firing. So that's why when you think about something, it's happening. Your body's going through that physical and that chemical change. So in order for us to move my hand, for example, okay, motor neurons, but it's not just that. There's a break, there's a synapse, and the synapse goes chemically to go to the next step to get the motor to control. So we have the chemical messaging. So when we involve the chemicaling, when we involve the feeling, so you might say to me, John, how do I create a good feeling? That's easy to do. A great way to create a good feeling is you can think right now about that abundance in your life. Think about everything you want. Take your thumb and your index finger from either hand, whatever is one is your dominant, and just take it and just pinch right here very gently between the thumb and index finger. And once you do that, just hold that and just keep thinking about all the abundance. Think about who you're going to buy a gift for. Think about the car you're going to buy. Think about going to the car dealership. And you can have any car, any price tag, any option, because you're completely abundant. Oh, and by the way, if you're there, you're not sure which car you want, well, get a second one. Get one a different color so you have one for the weekend. And when the salesperson says to you, well, I'm not sure when we can have it. Well, that's okay, because if you could have it for me this afternoon, I'd pay any amount of money. It's amazing how that car will suddenly be ready this afternoon for it. And so you keep thinking about it, you keep feeling that abundance, and maybe you go to your favorite store and you buy whatever you want. But instead of you deciding which thing you want, oh, I don't really know what I want. Well, great, we'll just take one of everything. So you can feel how abundant you are. And when you can't feel yourself any more abundant than you possibly are going to explode, just let go. Now, take your thumb and index finger and just come back and touch, and you'll feel all those great feelings coming back. Now, if it didn't work, you might have to do it a couple times, but I tell people to do this about once every couple hours. And that will condition your body. What we just did is we created an anchor. So one of the things I teach all the time is telling people about basically managing your state. We're all going to have challenges where people might set us off a coaster. Even though if we're great people or we're calm, whatever, people could still push our buttons, right? I had a gentleman this morning who decided he'd been a client for a very long time, and he decided that he didn't want to pay any money because he was under the impression that it should be covered under warranty. So I said, okay, bring it down. We'll take a look at it. I said, sir, the reason it's not going to be covered under warranty. Well, why not? I just got it 2 years ago. Well, sir, the reason it's not is because you canceled your virus and antivirus and your ransomware subscription with us. So this was caused by a virus and it caused permanent damage to your hardware. Well, how the heck's that happen? Well, sir, I'm trying to explain it to you. It's a software issue that can affect hardware because it caused your hardware to wear out by wearing it out. Well, that's stupid. I didn't want, well, sir, I understand. And this is the time of year when people are attacking computers. You know, sir, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to. So he starts going all these things, yada, yada. Sir, I understand that. And I want to fix your computer for you. I'm happy to keep talking with you all day, or I can fix it, whatever you want me to do. But if I keep talking with you, then I can't fix it, right? Okay. So people like that have this state and they want to push you in a certain way, and that could get you a little crazy. So I just go up on him like, you know what? Just let it roll down my back. He's going through a situation. He's got some challenges. They're not regarding me or my business. They're just the situation. So a lot of times we're not upset about the person. We're upset about the situation. So whenever you have I have people that work for me, and let's say I have somebody in stock, and I don't know, they're putting stuff for the shipping line. But this one kid in shipping, he's very fast. But he's also the one that causes us the most mistakes. So I bring him in the office and I say, hey, Joe, you're a great guy. You are probably one of our fastest stockers that we have and shippers. Really? Yeah. And I want to ask you, how can we change your behavior so that we can actually make sure that when you're doing the actions, that you're putting them on the right bell? Because what we're seeing is that current behavior is that 7 out of 10 times they're missing the belt and they're going to the wrong state. And then we have to pay money. They have to come back, and we actually don't make any money on those shipments. So how could we get your behavior to be more aware of the bin that it should go in? And he's like, I don't know. I guess I just never thought about it. Well, maybe when you pick up the box, look at the box. When you put it down, look at the box again. Before you put it in, make sure the box is supposed to be that number. We did that. Next week, came back. He improved his performance. But if I would have said to him, you know what, you're a great worker, but you gotta, you're terrible. You're messing us up. It wasn't about him. It was about his behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why many relationships go south. Many parents have issues. They're all fighting about the person. It's not the person. We don't care about the person. It's the behavior. Because we're all going to elicit behaviors that might be annoying, that might be a problem for somebody. So we have to approach that in a very respectful, compassionate way that lets the other know that we're trying to be a resource to help them change that behavior.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, we all just react to each other's, I want to say, personality, or
Mm-hmm.
right. We have because I guess there's two sides to this to the coin, right? There's you can be a and I might be going off on a little bit of tangent, but you can be a calm person, or just to give a simple example, like you can be a calm person, or you can not be a calm person. You can be a sort of a sort of short match type of person. And if the other person's a short match person, then you're gonna be fine, right? Your energies are gonna match. But then if the other person's a calm person, then you're gonna butt heads, right? So
Yes.
it's all about maybe learning to be in the middle there, and then realizing that everybody is going through life with their own from their own perspective, right? Through their own lens. And it's actually a tool that you could use, right? That you can, if, I mean, it's powerful to be able to realize that everybody is sort of in their head and leading their lives with sort of blinders. I mean, a lot of people are, not all, right?
Absolutely. I just tell people, I say to people, when they can't get something, I say, would you do me a favor? So what's that? Would you just put yourself in my shoes for a moment? They're like, well, I don't think I'm going to fit. Yes, I understand that. Pretend for a moment that you were living the life of John for a day. Just do that for a few minutes. Okay. Now that you've done that, I want to ask you, with that process you've just gone through, how would you have responded in this situation? Well, I'd be very angry because I'm losing money. And I probably want to fire the person. Right. So was I angry with you? Did I tell you I was going to fire you? No. I'm actually staying very calm and I'm actually working with you to try to help you be better. So would you have rather me said I was going to fire you? No. Okay. So maybe you can understand now a little bit of where I'm coming from, right? Yeah. But a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah. A lot of people don't have the capacity to get outside of themselves, right?
They've got to mentally do, I'll say mental gymnastics. They've got to practice this technique.
Hmm.
They've got to practice doing mental gymnastics and they got to practice doing what I call neuroplasticity. That's the art of when the brain can learn to be different. So when I talked about the RAS before, so the RAS was never designed to make us successful, but it was designed to keep us safe. So if you suddenly want to stretch out past something that might be a little bit, like let's say you want to push that zone a little bit, you can. And as soon as the RAS notices that you didn't get injured, that it wasn't a major issue, I guess maybe we can set the bar a little higher so that now I can allow this habit. And if you keep stretching that and stretching that, you start to grow physically, mentally, spiritually.
And what was the RAS? I'm not sure.
RAS is your reticular activating system.
Is this different than your fight or flight response, or?
Well, so it's related.
Mm-hmm.
The fight or flight response is about, you touch something, it's going to pull it back, right? The RAS is looking for a pattern similar to the burning the stove. But the RAS also has the capability of growing. So you can stretch your RAS. Most people, well, I can't do any more than 4 feet. That's all I can do. But what do? You learn as a swimmer. You learn to condition yourself to get into water that's deeper than 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, right? And before you know it, you're swimming in water that could be 50 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
So
it makes me think of I took like a free diving course a few weeks ago, and going into it, yeah, it was very interesting. I'm trying to learn how to spearfish.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I don't know. I have some crazy interests, but
well, what
sometimes,
made you want to pursue that passion, if I may ask you?
yeah, fishing sounds boring to me, and I'm also trying to learn. I'm taking archery lessons tomorrow because I'm trying to learn how to hunt. I'm from Texas, and I figured, man, I need to know how to hunt. And everybody in Texas does sort of perch type hunt. I forget what it's called, where you just you sit in a box in a tree and you can shoot a deer that's near a feeder. And that always seemed so easy to me. So and I'm a big Joe Rogan fan, and he bow hunts, so I've always wanted to learn how to do
Okay.
that.
Oh, wow. I got into one of I did some shooting when I was in scouts. Had to go for my rifle badge. And the way you
Hmm.
did there, you're in the prone position. They would only hand you the rifle on the ground. You could not be
Hmm.
standing with it. And then after that, several years after, I decided to get into skeet shooting,
Hmm.
which was a little bit of an experience because you got to get comfortable with the gun, and you have to realize that gun really does pull back. And if you're not used to that, and I'm just focusing on this thing, it's like, and you have to realize that it's got to be here in the chin and here, not on the jaw, here on the chin. And then you ride back with the gun. Otherwise you just, you don't want to do that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you keep it shoulder to shoulder, bam, and you're good.
If you learn at least one useful thing from this podcast is that don't put the butt of a gun near your chin. But
No, you basically have it on the shoulder and you have it on the side. So you have the back of it here, and you have the cheek to the side of the gun, not to the butt, but to the side, and then it
Mhm.
rides back with your face and doesn't jolt into you. But the first time I shot a gun there, I was petrified, and it's like, you get ready with the gun, it's like pull, and then they fire it back, bang. So pull is command to tell them to release a birdie, which is basically a clay pigeon thing into the air. And it was just an experience. And that adrenaline feeling of the first time, I mean, the first time I went out there, I think I shot one or two. And I got
Hmm.
better. Then I did like, and then I did like, I think 2 out of 10. And I got to 4 out of 10. And 6 out of 10. Now about 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So you have to practice.
Everything at the end of the day, everything is just an incremental 1% change, one step at a time, right?
Yeah, I
And
think you can't look for. I'm also a sailor, and I've been a competitive
mm,
sailor my whole life. So I learned to sail when I was about 6 or 7 years old.
also on the bucket list.
Okay, all right.
Mm.
And I'm looking at the sailboats right across my office here because sailing always relaxes me. Going on the Sunfish was my first boat, and doing that, and just being so a part of it, and going with the boat. I mean, there's a lot to sailing. How you go into the sail, depending on where the sail is, the wind is coming from the side. You're reaching. If you're in the back, you're running. If it's coming to the front, not on the bow, you're basically beating right on the edge of the wind. If it comes in the point, you're in irons. The boat's not moving. And so the thing with sailing is, I always wanted to get 100 times better each class, but I didn't. I would get progressively better each class. And I just started to realize that I have to enjoy sailing.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden I decided to get competitive with it. And then after that, it's like another side of me took over, that everything just kind of came together. Like I got good with this, I got good with that. And before I knew it, this little hobby I took got into competitive racing twice a week. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And there was one group that we were with called the Barnegat Bay Yacht Racing Association and the Bayhead Yacht Club. They had something called Teen Week. And you would go to the club, our boats would be towed up there, and we'd go to the club, and every night we'd come back for a party, like burgers or some sandwiches or something at somebody's house. And there were all the other sailors, and it was fun, but you don't get progressively better every day. You get a little bit better. And I think when I say to myself, how much better we're going to get, I don't know. A guest of mine that was on when we're talking about my series called, so the way my shows work is every week on a Saturday, I start a new master topic and I roll through the week and I finish by a Friday. Well, the one
Hmm.
week we are talking about how connecting with animals will make us more successful. So I brought this gentleman on who was in the military. He had lots of challenges, some addictions, and he told me how he fell into animals and all this. And he told me that the horse can actually determine a person's heart rate from 4 or 5 feet away.
Hmm.
But that was interesting. But the most important thing he told me, he said, John, I says, with the horse, I said, well, how do people know? And he's something like, he said, John, he says, when you get off that horse, some people are going to break it, and then I'm going to have to come back and fix it. And then you're going to be able to use the horse again. But you're either going to tell me you get that off that horse, you made that horse a little better, or you made it a little bit worse. And if you can't tell me whether you made it better or worse, you made it worse. So I
Yeah,
think
and
we do that in our own lives. We can make things better or worse, but when we don't want to share it, we know deep down we made it worse.
hmm. So just share.
Perceptions are our reality. Our world is not our world. Perceptions make our reality.
And when I was saying about starting spearfishing, I mean, yeah, sometimes I do find that every day I get better 1% or 2% or 3%, whatever percentage, right? But there's other times when I jump 10, 20%, and some of it is just perspective, I feel, because
Yes.
when I was starting this course, I was like, well, I must, like 3 meter, this was in Indonesia, so like 3 meters,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
which is, 10 feet. I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good goal. 10 feet, in my head, 3 meters. I could probably do that. And then I started learning about free diving and how, like we're actually pretty well adapted for it. And and in my view can be a bit safer than actual, just regular, what do you call scuba diving. And because
Okay.
you don't really deal with the whole pressure, with the nitrogen bubbles in your blood and all that. You know how in
Okay.
scuba diving
Okay. Okay.
when you rush up, you can have issues and blood clots and things like that. And so in free diving, that doesn't happen because all the air in your lungs compresses and everything happens naturally. And when you can come up as fast as you want. So in some senses, it's safer. And so then point is that when I was taking the course, like once I learned how to neutralize my eardrums, just the pressure in your eardrums, I did in my first try, I think it was my second try, I did 10 meters. So,
Oh, wow.
which is 30 feet, so, and you look up obviously at this column of water of 30 feet and I mean, most of it is just controlling the fear, right? Cause I mean, I probably could have done more. I could have held my breath longer,
Absolutely.
but it was more controlling your nervous system. So I think I'm gonna continue to I'm gonna take another freediving course because I liked that aspect of it more so than anything, right? Of just like learning to control your nervous system. And there's something to be said about, if you're in a high stakes uh, position to where you need to make a decision quick and effectively, being able to control your nervous system's a useful task or a useful skill.
I think there's a lot of things, and you mentioned a good point. With going fishing, nature has a lot that they can teach us, especially in fish. Just how the fish move. We've actually got a lot of our inspiration for some of our robots
Hmm.
from the sea.
Sort of a sea snake type of thing, or
We have the sea snake, we have the octophon. There's lots of different ones we have.
Hmm.
In fact, I did a whole week where every day I did a reel about the different types of things that came across. There's one that basically it can roll, it can flip. There's one that it goes in the ocean and or pond or river, and it can detect. It's like a snake, but it can detect like whether there's pollution in the water.
Hmm.
So we're turning to nature for a lot of examples. In fact, we're actually using AI now. There's a company, some part of the world, but not like very close. And it's a very distant part of Europe, and they made something called an AI beehive. I was like, "What the heck is an AI beehive? Like, what is that?" Well, it's about a $3,000 or $4,000 installment, so you can get it delivered to you, and then it's $400 or $500 a month for the service. And it's a robot inside, robotic arms, and it's a beehive. You just supply your own bees, and it does everything else for you.
Hmm.
And it can report back on your phone app. It brings you the honey into the jars, and it even has its own thing to keep out pests by using heat, so they never use chemicals.
Hmm.
So we're
Yeah.
using AI in a lot of good ways, but I think, as you can appreciate with engineering, we can use engineering in good ways and we can use it in bad ways. It's not the engineering that's good or bad. It's how we as people and as society, as developers, engineers, builders, choose to use that different perspective, technology, forms, etc.
Thanks so much for jumping on with me. It's been an interesting roller coaster of a conversation for sure. We touched up a bunch of different topics that I didn't expect. So yeah, thanks so much for jumping on.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here with all of your guests and get people to start, exercising their mind. And that's how we do it. We do it by thinking. So I do want to thank you very much for being here. And if you want to check out all my great content, you can visit me at Believe, Believe, me, achieve.com, because you have to believe before anything will happen. And I also invite you to check out my weekly articles that come out twice a week, one on tech, and also one comes out on motivation. And they tell you things you may not want to hear, but they also make you aware of things like toys that you might be giving out for the holidays that might be causing more of a security nightmare than you think.
I'm interested to find out.